join the call when they get on, but wanted to thank everybody for coming to tonight's virtual event from AMA Connecticut. And the theme for tonight's November event, amplifying differentiation to stand out in the marketplace. And we're very happy to have our guest speaker, Stan Phelps. And my name is Dan Liu, and I'm the president of the American Marketing Association of Connecticut chapter. And actually, we're now a consolidated chapter because we recently put the two different chapters within the state into a single entity. And we're very, very pleased to have that. And the AMA is a large organization, and we've had over 75 chapters in the country. And with that, over 30,000 members. And it's certainly one of the most robust organizations in the country as far as marketing goes. Jill, are you progressing the slides? Thank you. So as mentioned, we are the Connecticut chapter, one of 75 chapters, and including not only in the United States, but also in Canada. And we're ever growing, and it's an organization that really brings people together, and it has the objective of getting everyone to be able to network with one another and enhance our community of marketing professionals around the country, and certainly going into the global space as well. So, but what makes us really function properly is really a variety of things. We've got our members, we've got volunteers, we've got the board, and we certainly have sponsors. And tonight, we'd like to thank our main sponsors. We've got Sacred Heart University, Alpha Graphics, Stanford, and Sales Intel. And without these sponsors, the organization doesn't keep on flowing, doesn't keep on growing. So we want to thank everybody for that. And with that, as I mentioned, we'd like to have more and more volunteers, and we'd like to have the members to really be growing and participating with us. So the membership that you get with the AMA is not only these networking events that we have, can be both virtual and also in person, but there's so many other benefits from being a member as well. The national organization offers advancement and education, certification within different areas of marketing, and they let you really stay on top of the trends in marketing. So it's really important for the organization not to continue just to have local events, but to have that cohesion with the national group, which keeps us all informed about things going on in our business. We know it's ever changing, and it's important that we stay on top of that. But the networking is a really important thing as well. As far as becoming a member, it's really economical to do so. It's about $14.99 per month. So that's not a lot when you think about how expensive it is to get a cup of Starbucks coffee. So please don't wait. Join today. You can go to amact.org, or if you'd like to, we can also stay after the session. We're going to be having a couple of people on the call. Claudette, who's our AVP of membership, will be on, as well as Fabiana, who's a person who's going to be talking about potential volunteers within the organization. And volunteers are what also helps keep the organization growing, because without them, we're very, very limited in size, and it's really important that we have volunteers to be enhancing all of the efforts we participate in and try to offer our members as well as guests throughout the year. So as far as the volunteers, it's a great opportunity to gain a new personal experience and make a positive impact on your career, as well as the local market community. We have some fantastic volunteers in areas of communication, membership, sponsorship, and all the different market research, and we need volunteers. And with that, we'd love to have you, having shown interest in this particular event, we'd love to have you aboard with us as volunteers. And again, as mentioned, you can either go to the site itself or stay on call a little while longer after Stan finishes up. And we're going to be having our VP of volunteers be able to talk to you about some of the different opportunities we have with our chapter. The next thing I just wanted to talk about is the events. We've got amazing events. We've got usually a mixture of both in-person events as well as virtual events like we're having tonight. On the 29th of November, we're going to be having a Google Analytics 4 training session. It's going to be a virtual event, and that's just a little bit after Thanksgiving. On the 14th of December, we're going to be having our annual AMA Holiday Mixer and Networking meeting, and it's usually a lot of fun. We're having it at Hub and Spoke in Black Rock, Connecticut this year. Please come out. It's a very, very festive time. There's education, interaction, and certainly festivities as well. And I think you'll enjoy that experience. The party last year was really, really fun for everybody, and we all had a great opportunity to learn more about each other. And then in early February, on the 8th of February, which is the Thursday prior to Super Bowl, we have our annual Super Bowl ad preview event where you get to see some of the commercials that are going to be appearing on the Super Bowl that following Sunday, as well as quite a few other spots that maybe you won't notice unless you're glued to the screen for every moment. So it's an opportunity to see the commercials. And what we do is we have interaction between the audience as well as an expert panel to talk about the commercials. Did these commercials really accomplish their goal? Were they worth the money? Were they accomplishing the objectives that the clients really wanted? And having that expert analysis, so it's a very, very fun event and one of the big ones we have throughout the year. Just a little bit of a sprinkling of some of the activities we've had throughout the year. You can see a lot of happy people there. We offer education, interaction, and a lot of growing your network. And that certainly can help your career, whether you're in transition or looking for new opportunities. But please come on out to some events that we have through the coming year, whether as a guest or a member. We'd love to have you as a member, but with that, it's an opportunity for you to be able to really enhance your marketing abilities. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Jill. And Jill is our VP of the programming group, and she's going to talk a little bit about our guest tonight, Stan Phelps.
Yay. So thank you all so much for joining. We're excited that you're here. We're excited to be kicking off a big series of events again. So we wanted to welcome Stan Phelps here, who's going to be talking to us. So, and hold on a second. I've gotten a little bit sticky here with my presentation, so apologies. So who's joining us to give us our workshop on pink goldfish. Just for a little bit of background about Stan, he's a TEDx speaker, Forbes contributor, IBM futurist, and a certified speaking professional. And he has held many amazing roles throughout his career with Adidas, which I understand that I've been saying wrong virtually my whole life, the PGA of America, Synergy. He's authored the Goldfish series of books, which offer ideas and advice on how to create differentiation in the marketplace, but all with a little bit of a tweak and a slightly different point of view. You know, all in all, just ways to increase loyalty, promote positive word of mouth, and all of the things that we do, you know, within our marketing careers and desperately need, you know, more help. And he's got that expertise. He holds an MBA from Villanova and a bunch of certifications from a bunch of places. So we're thrilled to have him here. He's zooming in from Cary, North Carolina, where he lives with his wife and two boys, Thomas and James. So please help me welcome Stan. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jill. And if you don't mind stopping the screen share would be awesome. So I live in Cary, North Carolina. That's my wife, Jen. I have two boys, Thomas and James. I moved here to Connecticut from Norwalk, I moved to North Carolina from Norwalk, Connecticut 11 years ago. Yeah, thank you, Jill. Yeah. And I always like to share this, just show of hands. And by the way, I can see you guys all Brady Bunch style, and I'd love it if you would share your video just so I can see you. Thank you, Bob, for sharing, and Hope, and Clint for coming on, and Claudette. Awesome. So show your hands. Anyone here a fan of HGTV at all? All right, I'm seeing a fair amount of hands. So I always like to share this. When our family made the move 11 years ago, we did the show House Hunters. All right, and I tell people I learned very quickly that there's not a lot of reality in reality television. And I know I've told this to Kevin, but they don't even tell you that you're going to make it onto the show until you have a contract on the house you've already bought. And then they have you, they show you 2 houses that you never saw as part of the process. So great. Oh, that's, yeah, there you go. There you go, John. Yeah, John Leese. Oh, awesome. So whole slew of Goldfish books, by far, because I'm a marketer, this is my absolute favorite, is the Pink Goldfish. And we can't talk about the color pink without acknowledging the summer we just went through. Claudette, unmute yourself really quick, right? You had to live under a rock this past summer to not know what pink took over the summer. What was it?
Barbie.
Barbie, yeah, absolutely Barbie, right? It was amazing. In fact, I don't know if anyone caught this, but they filmed this during the pandemic, and they used so much pink paint when they did this movie, they created a global shortage for pink paint. Can you imagine that? They used so much pink when they did this movie. And I love it because this is Greta Gerwig, right? Who was the director of the movie. She said she was very intentional about it. She says, I wanted the pinks to be very bright and everything to be almost too much. And I love this idea of making it too much. That's a strategy that we're going to talk about a little later called lopsiding. And this idea of a pink goldfish. Now, really quickly, this came up on the pre-call, like, Stan, what's the obsession with goldfish? So I'm going to ask everyone 2 questions real quick. I'm going to give you a minute to think about this. Here's the first 2 questions for you. What makes you weird or different? And then I want you to think all the way back to what was your first pet when you were growing up? So I'm going to give you 1 minute to think about it. And then Kevin Janko is going to share when we come back. So unmute yourself, Kevin. 1 minute to think about it. All right, 15 seconds. All right, Kevin, we're waiting. What makes you weird or different?
I mean, there's so many choices, Stan, but I'll go with being car obsessed. How's that?
You found a home now with your new job. We were talking about that. I love that.
That's
So
right.
what did you call yourself when you were growing up? You were like a gearhead or something like that?
Yeah, it was kind of a blend of a gearhead and a nerd.
And then
Yeah.
great. And do you remember when you were growing up, your very first pet?
It was a cat,
What was your cat's name?
Rusty.
Rusty. How old were you?
Oof. Young, maybe like 4 or 5, something like that.
4 or 5. Okay, awesome. Anyone else? Show of hands. It was a cat that you had as your first pet? All right, we got Lucas and Christine and Jill, cat. All right. How about dog? Dog's always a famous one. All right. All right, Christine, you can't do cat and dog. I saw you there. Cat and dog. You there's no extra points here. You can't be both. One was your very first pet. How about anyone? Fish?
We had 3 cats and 1 dog.
3 cats and 1 dog. All right. Hope is also, like me, a fish. So by the way, what makes me weird is that I'm obsessed with bar tricks and bad jokes. In fact, I even wrote a book about bar tricks and bad jokes. So that's one of the things that makes me a little weird and different. My very first pet when I was 6 years old was a goldfish. This is me when I was 6. I feel like I always have to do this. Look at all the hair I used to have. I was good looking too when I was young. But I'll never forget it. My first pet was a goldfish. His name was Oscar. And I won Oscar when I went to a carnival and I threw the ping pong ball. Anybody do that when they were growing up as a kid? And I came home with my very first pet. Now, Oscar was pretty small. And it turns out that the average goldfish is just 3 inches in length. Now, to put that in perspective, 3 inches is the size of an average person's thumb, right? Some goldfish grow to be bigger than 3 inches. Some grow to be smaller. That's just average. But type this in the chat, right? This is average right here. What do you think the world's largest goldfish is? Let's see if we can do wisdom of the crowd in the chat. How many inches? Now, not a carp or a koi. 17, 12, 6, 1 foot, so that's 12 inches. 7, 24. I like this. 6. Okay, wisdom of the crowd is you always throw out the couple low ones and the couple high ones. So we're going to throw out the 27 and the 6. You're looking right here at the world's largest goldfish, right? Which is nearly, and by the way, this is the Guinness record holder, nearly 20 inches, right? Imagine that. How is that? How would that even be possible, right? It would be like you walking out of your house or your apartment or your office right now and bumping into somebody who's like 3 stories tall. Like, how is that even possible, right? That's crazy to think about. Now, here's the thing. Goldfish and their growth are influenced by just 5 factors. But here's the thing. Those same 5 factors apply to everyone that's listening right now, to not only you and your career, but for the growth of your organization. And so we're going to have some fun. I'm going to give you the goldfish growth factor. And if you think you know how that relates in business, I want you to type it in the chat. We'll see who can get the first one of each of these 5. So most people have heard the first one. Has anyone ever heard this? The size of the growth is determined by the size of the bowl if you're a goldfish. And this is a direct correlation. So the bigger the bowl, right, the bigger the pond that you're in, the more you typically grow, right? The smaller the bowl or the pond, the less you typically grow. So in business, and this is like marketing 101, what's the size of the bowl or the pond in business? Let's see. Oh, wait a second. Jill piped in. She got it, because it's what? It's the market for your products or services, right? And the bigger the market you serve, the more you can grow. Now, the second one's going to be so easy. Someone's going to type this right into the chat right away, because the second reason is based on the other goldfish in the bowl or the pond, right? And this one's an inverse correlation, right? So if you're a goldfish, the more goldfish that are in the bowl or the pond, the less you typically grow. So who are the other goldfish if you're in business? All right, I already said, Christine got it. Yeah. It's simple. They are what? Your competition, right? And the more competition you have, the harder it is to grow. Now, the third one used to be the most difficult of the 5 until March 13th, 2020. Does anybody remember March 13th, 2020? It was a Friday, Hope. I call it my Black Friday. It was a great day if you made your living through in-person events. Yeah. Because here's the thing, if you're a goldfish, your growth is also determined by the quality of the surrounding environment that you're in, the water that you're in. And the better this water is, the clearer the water is and the more nutrients in the water, the bigger you get. If it's cloudy and there are not nutrients, it stunts your growth if you're a goldfish. So I want you to think kind of macro. Let's see the first person who can get this. This is a tough one. Think of those outside environment, right? The quality of the environment. What is that quality of the environment if you're in business? I want you to think kind of macro. Culture, Consumer confidence, I'm looking for the E word. Culture's more internal, I want external. Oh yeah, boom. Kevin got it. It's what? It's the economy. And someone said consumer confidence, that's absolutely plays in. It could be your ability to access capital, right? It could be things like tariffs and regulations. All of those things impact your ability to grow. So we've had the size of the bowl was the market, the other goldfish were the competition. Now we have the economy. Here's number 4. If you're a goldfish, how you do in your first 4 months of life. So they are tiny when they're born. A baby goldfish has 80 to 100 brothers and sisters. So how they get out of the gate in the first 4 months will determine how big they ultimately will get. So here's the thing, in business, what are you typically called your first 4 months in business? Let's see who gets this one. You're called what? Yeah, all right. I see a few people got it. Hey, you're a startup. Absolutely. So how you do in this critical time will determine how big you ultimately get. Here's number 5. Number 5, if you're a goldfish, is genetic makeup. And so if you're a goldfish, what are you born with that separates you from all of the other goldfish? And the stronger your genes are and the more that you're separated, the bigger you typically grow. Now, conversely, if your genes are weak and you're like everyone else, the less you typically grow, right? So what's genetic makeup in business? It's the extent that you're what compared to everyone else. Let's see if anyone can get this. Product innovation. Oh, Becky's got it. Yeah, she's the D word. It's the extent that you're what? You're differentiated from your competition. How do you stand out in what I would call a sea of sameness, right? And here's the challenge. It's not just what you do, right? Because if we're honest, a lot of people do what we do from product and service. It's how we do it and why we do it. And so I tell people, if these are the 5 things right here, and I'm going to assume that most people on this right now have already been in business for more than 4 months, right? So we can throw out number 4. Of the remaining 4, what do you have control over, right? Do you have control over the market? No. Thank you, Christine, for the head wave there. I appreciate that. Do you have control over your competition? Not, yeah, right, Lucas? Not unless you're acquiring them, right? Right? How about the economy? Does anyone here have control over the economy? Please see me after this webinar. That would be great, Kevin. I see you shaking your head, right? If we're honest, the only thing you have control over is what? How you differentiate what you do, right? Not just what you do, but how you do it and why you do it. So the goldfish is just a metaphor for growth via what? By being different, right? Now, that's the goldfish bit. Now, why pink, right? Pink is because of my co-author, David Rendell. Now, this is a picture of Dave. To put it in perspective, Dave is, I'm 6'2". Dave is like 6'7", right? His wife, Stephanie, is 5'3", right? And Dave would tell you the only thing you have to know about their relationship is that deodorant is way more important than breath mints. All right, so this is Dave. Imagine seeing this guy. He embraces the color pink, right? This is him on stage telling a story about being in an airplane bathroom on one of these regional jets. This is him at an AMA event that we had here in Raleigh. And I love it for Dave. You know, Dave has 3 daughters. He's got a beautiful wife, Stephanie. His little Bichon Frise is female. And over the course of the time, they started buying him some pink clothes. And as he would tell the story, they were trying to convert him into being a woman. And he just embraced it. He loved it. Now, what's interesting is you only have to go back 100 years ago, and pink was a color for boys. Light blue was a color for girls. So it's just a recent thing that we've kind of swapped the genders for this color. So pink is just a symbol for being different and standing out. And again, when you wear pink pants, you are hard to be forgotten, right? Now, here's the challenge. We're all marketers, right? Nobody came to this program tonight and didn't realize it was important to stand out and be different. Becky, unmute yourself for a second. Did you show up tonight, Becky? Be truthful. You knew it was important to stand out and be different, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Here's the thing, though. Even though we know it's important to stand out and be different, this is a quote by Youngmi Moon, who's a Harvard Business School professor. She wrote a great book called Different. She says, even though we know it's important to be different, she said the number who are truly able to achieve competitive separation, she says, is depressingly small, right? And the research bears this out. Let's do wisdom of the crowd again. Do you think it's a big number of people that can stand out and be different, or is it a small number? So do me a favor, type in the chat, what percentage of people in organizations have the ability to stand out and to act and think differently? Let's see if we do wisdom of the crowd. 18%, I'm seeing 5. Somebody said 220%. I'm not sure if that is playing correctly. I'm seeing some single digits. Oh, and Jill nailed it. Jill nailed it because the research says that only 3% of people have the ability to think and act differently. Now, I'm pretty sure we've got all 3%ers here, right? We're all 3%ers. But it begs the question, where are the other 97%? And to me, and the research also bears this out, is that these 97% are stuck here in the box. And they're constrained by what we call the norms of their industry, right? What's generally accepted and considered normal within their industry from a legal, a social, an ethical point of view. And what we start to do is get boxed in, and we can't think outside and think differently. What the 3% are able to do is actually expand this box and make it a bit bigger. And when you do that, you now can create 4 different quadrants. Again, this is where all 97% are. You now create these quadrants. So let me break it down. On the y-axis here, you have here at the top, what makes you weird, unique, and different? And then what makes you normal here at the bottom? And on the x-axis, we can either lean in and do more, or we can push back and do less, right? So this is the plus side, this is the negative side. Now, we've got 4 animals that are associated with each of these 4 quadrants. Becky, you did so good last time. I'm going to ask you to unmute again. You get the first quadrant. The first quadrant's in the top left. This is the idea of doing less of what makes you weird, unique, and different. And Becky, we call that the cow or the conform quadrant, right? And Becky, we're going to test your Animal Planet knowledge. Are cows unique, Becky?
I'd say no.
You'd say no. You'd be incorrect
Oh.
because they are unique because of what? Their spots. And their spots are like our fingerprints. No two cows are alike, but I'm going to tell you, you were going to the right place. Do they know that they're unique, Becky?
No.
No, absolutely not, right? If one cow started walking here, what would all the rest of the cows do? Follow, literally creating a cow path and never going outside, right? So this is the idea of being oblivious to what makes you unique and different, right? Not a good place if you want to stand out. You did awesome. Hope, unmute yourself. Good to see you, Hope.
Good to see you too, Stan.
All right, you get the opposite. Over here in the second, right? This is the idea of leaning in and doing more of what makes you weird, unique, and different, right? We call that the peacock or the strut quadrant, right? And here's your first Animal Planet question, Hope. Are peacocks unique?
I guess it depends on what you're comparing them to.
Charisma's trying to help you. She's going like this.
Okay, I guess then.
Yes, they are, because look at their feathers. Their feathers are exactly like the spots of the cow, right? No two peacocks are alike because of the patterns of their feathers. But what's the difference between the cow and the peacock, Hope?
In terms of what? Sorry.
So if the cow is oblivious, what's the difference between the cow and the peacock? What does the peacock do?
I'm not trying to understand this. Sorry.
The peacock's like not
well,
afraid to put it out there,
right?
right?
It struts. It kind of shows up. It's it's very well present.
Yeah, it's putting it out there for the world to see and owning what makes them different. Awesome. I'm not going to give you any more Animal Planet trivia.
Obviously, this is not my forte.
All right. Charisma was so good on that one. She gets the next one because I love your top, Charisma. You get the next one.
Because I follow you, Stan.
So the bottom, let me go back here. The bottom right is the idea of doing more of what makes you normal, right? Again, this is where the 97% are in the bottom right. Charisma. This is going to be a tough one. Are zebras black with white stripes or white with black stripes?
However you want to look at it. They're both.
There's an answer here.
They're both.
All right. You got to pick one.
Black with white stripes.
You are correct. They are black with white stripes. Now, Charisma, has anyone ever been able to tell one zebra from another zebra?
Oh, somebody's saying yes.
It's almost impossible, right? Right? Because even if you added stripes, it would be almost impossible to tell one zebra from another zebra apart. In fact, when they study zebras, right, they'll be looking at a zebra and they'll put their head down and write a note about it. And when they lift their head up, they have no clue which one. So what they do is they actually put a little bit of red paint and they'll put it on the back of the zebra. And within 2 days, that zebra's dead. Because when the lions hunt the zebras, they're looking for a telltale sign and they can zone in on the one with the red paint and they kill it. So zebras are interesting, right? They actually camouflage themselves against other zebras. Last one for you, Charisma. They'll stand in groups of 5 as a prey defense. Charisma, why do you think they stand in groups of 5?
so that they can tell the difference between the group. No one stands out.
When a lion sees 5 zebras standing together, they don't see 5 zebras. What do they see?
One.
Just one big zebra, and they won't attack it. Absolutely. So one of the worst things we do as marketers, and I was guilty of this, is we look at whoever the leader is within our industry, and we do this thing called benchmarking. Who's done benchmarking before? I see Claudette. She's like shaking her head. Yeah. So you start to look at all the things that make the leader in your category, right, stand out. And then what do we do next, even if we don't want to admit it? We start to do some of those same things. And that doesn't lead to standing out and being different. That leads to being the same. William Peters, you're up next. Let's see if are you an Animal Planet guy or a National Geographic guy, William Peters? You're muted.
Not in a while.
Not in a while. Okay, you get the last category. You get the bottom left. And the bottom left, we call it the polar bear or the subtract quadrant. You might get the easiest question ever. So this is the idea down here, William, is that you do less of what everyone else does as normal, right? And that's a way to stand out by not doing more, but by doing less. So William, you ready for the easiest question in the world? What color are polar bears?
White.
They're not, William, they're black. And you're not believing me for a second. Their skin is actually black, and the reason why we see them as white is that their fur is hollow and translucent. And so when the light passes through the fur, all of the colors in the spectrum start to get removed, and what gets bounced back to our eye is the absence of color, which our eye determines as white, which is why we see them as white or like an off-white yellow. So it's the idea of taking things away. So William, interesting thing about polar bears, they're all left-handed. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Right. They're also not afraid to leave the herd and go out on their own. They can live a solitary life. They don't have to be part of the pack. And here's the thing, William, they're the only animal on Earth that actively hunts human beings. Yet they don't get their own week on the Discovery Channel, William. They lost out there. So there are only 2 animals that you want to think about if you want to be different, right? You obviously don't want to be like a cow or a zebra. The 2 quadrants, if you want to stand out, is to do more like a peacock of what makes you weird, unique, and different, or be like a polar bear and decide to do less of what everyone else does as normal, right? And this whole concept is based on this idea that our flaws and the things that make us weird and different are actually the things that make us awesome. Or as we say in the book, they're the things that make us blossom, right? And I tell you, if you don't believe it from me, that your flaws actually hold the key to what makes you awesome, I'm going to ask you to consult one of the greatest philosophers of our time. And of course, I'm talking about this guy right here. Becky's going, absolutely. Whatever Kanye says, Kanye goes, right? That's the greatest philosopher of our time. So I mentioned my co-author on the book, Dave. I'll grab a copy of the book here. So it's called The Pink Goldfish. We have now looked at over 400 organizations that have achieved competitive separation in the marketplace. And it turns out when you do this, you've got 8 different ways that you can do it. And I want to spend the majority of the time that we have left to give you a sense of some of those 8 different ways. Okay? And it begins with the F in the F.L.A.W.S.O.M framework. The F is this idea of flaunting and owning what makes you different. So let's see, Dr. Allison, do you mind unmuting yourself? Dr. Allison, I want you to imagine you're a marketer. Is that easy to imagine? And this is your product right here, Dr. Allison. What's the flaw of cough syrup?
Taste.
Taste, right? It tastes awful. Nobody's ever had something in their life and tasted it and went, this tastes so good, it tastes like cough syrup. No one's ever said that. So Dr. Allison, what if you were trying to be like every other normal cough syrup company, what would you do to combat that flaw?
Tastes better than all others.
Right, so maybe you'd reformulate it so it tastes better, or maybe you would even flavor it. What do you think?
Do a taste test and show my claim.
And show your claim. I like where you're going. Well, there's one cough syrup company. It comes from Canada. It's called Buckley's. Dr. Allison, have you ever heard of Buckley's? I mean, Buckley's taste really bad, right? I was doing this presentation. There was someone from Canada in the audience, and they were in the back. And when I showed this slide, they immediately got up and goes, "That stuff tastes like shit," right? It was like PTSD. Now, they had been around for over 90 years. And instead of trying to fix the bad taste of Buckley's, they actually leaned on it. And I loved where you're going, Allison. They did a taste test where they compared Buckley's to things like sweaty gym socks, to trash bag leakage, right? And I don't know what this is, but I don't like it. Public restroom puddle. Now, I've got to show you this guy's reaction.
I can't tell. Must be made by the same people.
Oh, that freaks me out when I see that every time. I can't tell. Must be made by the same people, right? So what was the message, right? It tastes awful, and what? It works. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Allison. It works, right? They leaned into what made them weird, unique, and different. And instead of trying to follow everyone else, they leaned into it. Now, before they did this campaign, they were just 2% of the market in Canada. Within 18 months of this campaign, they jumped up to 11% of the market. Now, Dr. Allison, that's Canada. What do they call that increase in Canada?
Okay.
They call it a hockey stick. Yeah, that's if you're a marketer, you want the hockey stick, right? So flaunting is this idea of positive. It's like parading without shame. That's the Webster's definition. It's owning what you are and what makes you different. Now, the L in lopsiding, the L in the F.L.A.W.S.O.M framework is lopsiding. And lopsiding is totally a peacock strategy, right? It's doubling and tripling down on what makes you unique. Remember when Greta Gerwig said we wanted the pinks to be really bright and everything to seem like it was almost too much? That's lopsiding, right? Who remembers this movie? All right, Christine, unmute yourself. Tell everybody, if you haven't seen this movie, it was called Super Size Me. What was the log line? What was the gist of Super Size Me, Christine?
McDonald's and fast food serving too much.
Right. So Morgan Spurlock here, he had to eat McDonald's breakfast, lunch, and dinner for an entire month. And what did he learn, Christine?
I don't remember.
He learned that fast food was not good for your health. We didn't know that as Americans, right? And so, do you remember what happened after this movie came out, Christine?
People ate less.
Well, McDonald's got rid of the supersize option, but what did they come out with in addition after that? Do you remember,
Combos?
Christine? Salads,
No.
yogurt, fruit, water, for God's sakes, right? And what did every other fast food restaurant do?
Copy them.
Copied and followed right in their footstep, except for one. On the East Coast, they call it Hardee's. On the West Coast, they call it Carl's Jr. And at the time, Hardee's was actually closing down stores, right? They knew that fast food was bad, but instead of trying to make it healthier, what do you think they did, Christine?
Promoted it.
Well, they made it fattier and nastier. They launched what was called a thick burger. And you're looking at a thick burger right now in all its glory.
Oh, sorry.
That's a 1/4 pound hot dog sliced in half, 3/4 of a pound of beef. And I love this. As if you're too lazy to pick up the potato chips, they put the potato chips in there for you, right? They doubled and tripled down. They said, yeah, it's not good to eat fast food all the time, but if you're going to eat it, don't mess around. I love this because now I live in North Carolina. I moved here from Connecticut. We are the biggest pork producing state in the country. I love this. They came out with a thing called the apocalypse, right? Hashtag no part of the pig left behind, right? Now, what did they do? Their sales actually went up. What did McDonald's sales do in light of putting healthier items on the menu? Their sales went down. Just about 3 years ago, what did McDonald's do? Got rid of the salads, got rid of the fruit, got rid of the yogurt, went back and started following what Hardee's has done. All right. All right, so here's a question for you. I want you just to think for a minute or two, and then we're going to come back. Let's see. I know my friend Bruce here. I see his picture. Bruce, when we come back, I'm going to ask you this question. And here's the question. How are you lopsiding what makes your organization weird, unique, and different? Bruce, are you with me? All right. Joseph's going to be your call for help. Joseph, how do we say it? Joseph Byer? Awesome. So Joseph, when we come back in a minute, I want you to share, how are you lopsiding what makes your organization weird, unique, and different? All right, Joseph, what do you got for me? Tell me a little bit about your organization.
Well, I'm kind of in between opportunities right now, so I don't really have an organization. I'm trying to start up a consulting company. So the question misses the mark a little for me right now. But as I think about starting my own proposition, I think about what could I do that's somewhat unique. And I thought about my experience lends itself very well to kind of innovation, because I've had a lot of creative assignments in marketing over the years, but also I've had a lot of very pragmatic experience as well, and things like category management and retail. So I'm kind of coining the notion that I can give my clients innovation that works, which I thought was a nice way to say not just fluffy innovation that dies on the vine, but stuff that will actually make it to market. So I don't know if that's lopsiding or not, but I'm kind of
I would double and triple down, because everyone wants to innovate.
Yeah.
And they want their people to be innovative, but they don't teach them how, right? They don't give them the space to do it, and they don't give them the rewards. Sounds like you've had a career where you've done all three of those things.
Well, we'll see. We'll get back to you and let you know how it works.
I love it. I love it. All right. So we've had flaunting, We've talked about lopsiding. I want to share my favorite of the 8 different types. And that is antagonizing, right? We focus so much on kind of our target market that sometimes we think there are other people that we would never want to serve. And if we can push away some of those people, what does that do to our target? It actually pulls our target in. So you can antagonize by doing more of what makes you weird and unique, and you can also antagonize by doing less of what everyone else does as normal. So I want to tell you this case study to bring it to life. It's a place called the Alamo Drafthouse. Has anyone ever been to an Alamo Drafthouse? No. So we have one here in Raleigh. There's about 50 across the country. They started in Austin, Texas. Entertainment Weekly said this is the best place in the country to go see a movie, right? Comfortable seats, amazing food, full bar, great beer selection, right? Total and awesome place. And they take movie going super serious. So when you walk into the auditorium, there is a strict no talking, no texting policy, right? They will warn you one time, but after they warned you, they chuck you. And so a number of years ago, there was a woman who got warned and she didn't stop, and then she got tossed, and she left them a scathing voicemail. Fabiana, unmute yourself. We haven't heard from you yet. What would most businesses do, Fabiana, when they get that voicemail, that scathing voicemail?
They try to explain themselves and apologize.
Yeah, they call up, they apologize. Hey, can we give you your money back? Or here's a coupon. Like we're apologetic. Fabiana, they did not call the customer back. You know who they called? Their attorneys. And they said, can we use this voicemail message? And the attorneys didn't have to think but a second. They said, absolutely. She knew for 100% she was being recorded. They created a PSA that they play in the theaters. They put it on their website. It went viral. And I'm going to let Anderson Cooper tell you the rest of the story.
All right. Thanks very much. Aisha, time now for the ridiculous. Tonight we're adding my latest source of annoyance, people who talk and text at the movies. And I want to talk about one young woman in particular, a woman who was repeatedly warned to stop texting during a movie in Austin, Texas, wouldn't stop, and was promptly thrown out of the theater. Then she left an angry voicemail for the theater, which is posted on its blog for your enjoyment.
No, that wasn't supposed to text in your little crappy theater.
All right. Did I mention that theater is called the Alamo Drafthouse and that they serve beer? Well, I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but indeed, I think our texter may have partaken a bit, a little pre-party during the previews, perhaps. Listen to her next defense.
So excuse me for using my phone in USA, the United States of America, where you are free to text in a theater.
I love living in the United States of America where you are free to text in a theater. Now, that's the lady who knows her Constitution. What's all that freedom jazz about if some drunk girl can't constantly update her Facebook status while people are trying to concentrate on Kung Fu Panda 2? Next, the text lady employs something I like to call the silent but deadly defense.
And it was on silent. It wasn't on loud. It wasn't bothering anybody. You guys obviously were being confused.
I'm sorry, drunk girl, but texting in a dark movie theater is like lighting a road flare. People are going to see it. You might not through your beer goggles, but everyone else will. Drunk girl didn't give up, though. She's been hitting the law books, apparently, and comes up with 2 more arguments for her defense. A combo of the I didn't know defense, seasoned with just a touch of the I do it everywhere else defense.
I was not to text in your theater, all right? I texted in all the other theaters in Austin, and no one ever gave about what I was doing on my phone, all right?
Now, maybe she has texted her way through every other movie theater in Austin. I wouldn't be surprised. But as it turns out, this particular theater has a well-known zero-tolerance policy against talking and cell phones. It's kind of this theater's crusade, and they all kinds of creative announcements about it. Watch.
electric cattle prod. So if I hear someone talking, I'll give them just not an aggressive shot, but just a light shot.
My name is Pedro Sanchez from the Bullet Dynamite. If you vote for me, I'll make sure that everyone is very quiet in the theater. Don't talk during the movies. Turn off your cell phones and speakers, please.
You can find out who they are and then go cut their tongue out.
So I think it's pretty clear where the Alamo Drafthouse stands on this issue. And you know what? Maybe a theater with that kind of policy just isn't for everyone.
You know, I will never be coming back to your Alamo Drafthouse or whatever. I'd rather go to a regular theater where people are actually polite.
Oh yeah, the regular theater are full of polite people, politely shouting at the screen, politely bringing screaming toddlers to rated R movies at 11 o'clock at night, politely talking and texting through the whole movie. The CEO of the Alamo Drafthouse says he wants his theater to be different. Here's Tim League, Great American Hero.
We wanted to take a hard stand and say that those people are not welcome at the Alamo Drafthouse. So we'll get rid of those people and just make it a better place for the rest of the movie-going public.
I think that guy should win the Nobel Peace Prize. So listen up, Magnited States. Newsflash, a movie theater, it's not your living room, so don't act like it is. We're paying to see the movie, not your cell phone light. And we want to listen to the actors, not your lame comments and inane chatter. Next time you're about to text in a film, remember the Alamo Drafthouse, or you might end up at the ridiculous.
All right, so I love that story, right? The idea that you know, that they're just going to make the experience better for the people that they actually cater to, and not be afraid. Now, let's assume, right, that she didn't even leave that voicemail message, right? Let's see, who haven't I heard from yet? Claudette, unmute yourself. Imagine she is having brunch with her girlfriends, with 4 of her girlfriends that next weekend, and she tells the story about the Alamo Drafthouse. What do you think 2 of her girlfriends are thinking as she tells that story?
They want to go check out the Alamo? Like, they prefer to
they're
go
like,
there? And...
they're going to say to her, oh, that's a horrible place. What did you say that address was again for that movie theater? And then 2 of her girlfriends might hear that story and say, what? Oh, I like to text when I go to the movie theater. I wouldn't want to go to that place, right? And that's exactly the people that Alamo doesn't want to serve, right? So antagonizing is about owning who we are and not being afraid to like piss people off if they're not the right fit. All right, let's talk about the 4th type. The 4th type is withholding. Now, withholding is totally right down here. It's a polar bear strategy, right? When everyone does A, B, C, and D as normal, the fact that you only do A, B, C makes you stand out. All right. Let's see. Clint Daly. Clint, can we unmute yourself for a second? All right, awesome. Clint, I want you to imagine you're in retail. What day of the year is this in retail?
Black Friday.
Black Friday. Why is it called Black Friday, Clint?
Good question. I don't know where it came from, but it's the biggest sales day of the year.
So it comes from, yeah, it's the biggest sales day of the year. Comes from Philadelphia, of all places. But the reason they call it Black Friday is that for 10.5 months, you've been in the red, right? This is the day you finally get into the black, right? So if you're going to be in retail, Clint, and you have to compete against all of the other retailers, what are some of the ways that you compete?
Putting in crazy sales.
Yeah, we have like doorbuster deals, right? We have these amazing sales. How else?
Well, part of that is loss leader, right? So you're putting stuff up for crazy sales and then hope they buy stuff at the normal price. And that's where you make
right. You make money on all the other stuff because they're already there. How about the hours?
Yeah, starting up at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, some crazy hours.
Right, or maybe you even start on Thursday, right, at like 8 o'clock and go through the night. Yeah, well, that's if you were normal and you were competing, right? But this is withholding. What would be a withholding tactic, Clint, if everyone else followed and tried to one-up each other? What do you think REI did a number of years ago?
Actually, I just saw the news yesterday that there was a number of companies that are going to close completely for Thanksgiving to give their employees a day off and not have this craziness go on.
Absolutely. REI made that bold move back in 2015. They said their people should be outside with their family members, not jockeying in line at a store, right? They're all about being in the outdoors. Not only did they close all 150 of their stores, Clint, they shut down their website for all of Black Friday. And they've since doubled and tripled down on it. And they've created now what's called the opt-outside movement. And the importance of Black Friday since they've done that in 2015 has continued to drop. And other people have started to follow in that wake. Now, their sales went up as a result. Their memberships went up as a result. Not by doing more, Clint, by what?
Doing less.
By doing less, right, of what everyone else did as normal. Awesome. So we've went through the first 4. I'm going to tell you the next 2, swerving and opposing, kind of as a review of what we already learned, right? Because I'm going to withhold and not tell you what swerving is, right? And, you know, I hope maybe for a few of you it antagonizes you and pisses you off. And I'm actually going to double down on it because I'm not even going to tell you what opposing is, right? And I'm going to flaunt the fact that I'm not going to tell you what those 2 are. All right, let's move on. The M in F.L.A.W.S.O.M is what's called micro-weirding, right? And micro-weirding sits right in the middle of the matrix. This is the idea of doing little things that are a little more or little things that are a little less than what others do as normal, right? And this is true to my heart. My first book in the series was called The Purple Goldfish, and this is exactly what The Purple Goldfish was about. How do you do little things to tweak the experience that you provide? Now, who haven't I heard from for a while? Let's see. Jill, I don't know if I've heard from you yet, so we're gonna. No, have we heard from you yet, Jill?
You heard from me at the beginning. You heard me introduce you, Stan.
Yes, I did. So we've got to bring you back. We go full circle. Look at this impressive hotel, Jill. Do you know where the Magic Castle Hotel is located?
I do not.
It's in West Hollywood, so Southern California. Doesn't it look really impressive?
Sure.
It doesn't look all that impressive, Jill. I think you're being kind.
Melrose Place, so I think I'm having a little bit of a nostalgic.
You were looking, though, at the #1 rated hotel on all of TripAdvisor for Southern California. There's 25 million people who live in Southern California. There's a ton of hotels. This is ranked as #1, right? And here's the thing. They do a little bit more of some things and they do a little bit less of others, right? So here's one of the things they do. They don't have mini bars in the room, Jill, right? So if you want a $7 Diet Coke, you're out of luck. But you can walk down to the front desk and they will give you a soda or a candy bar for absolutely free. Do you think people appreciate that, Jill?
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got a pool just like every other hotel in Southern California has, Jill. But their pool does a little something more. Their pool has what they call the popsicle hotline. So, Jill, imagine you're sitting by the pool, right? You're getting a little warm. And you come up, you don't even have to dial. You just pick up the phone. You tell them what flavors you want. And within 2 minutes, they come out with a silver tray and a white glove, and they deliver you your popsicles poolside. Now, Jill, have you ever given a hotel a bad review because you didn't get popsicles?
I have not.
You have not. Okay, that was a safe one, I think.
Yeah.
Right? They stand out by doing little things that are different. By the way, 3 weeks ago, I'm out in Arizona and I'm at a resort, the JW Marriott. Check this out. They had a little outdoor event. This is how they were handing out the beers at this event. How cute is that little miniature donkey? His name was Nacho, by the way. Nacho, the little miniature donkey. And he had the Coronas on both sides. It was the cutest thing you ever saw. So that's micro weirding. By the way, if anyone wants to invite me to an event in Arizona, I'm all in. I'm all in. It was 100 degrees, though, in the middle of February, in middle of October. All right, the E in F.L.A.W.S.O.M, and this is going to be the last one, is exposing, right? And I love this. Exposing is the idea that sometimes people will say negative stuff about you, right? Like online reviews and awful stuff. And sometimes you got to own it, right? And take that in. So this is a great example. It comes from, does anybody drink Oatly by chance? No? All right, Christine's shaking. You like oat milk, Christine? But this is an actual review from somebody who tried the product. And they actually used that review in their actual ad. And I love the last sentence that they say. It says, so give it a go. And if you don't like it, you can always give it to somebody you don't like. That's what business students call a win-win. I love that, right? They're owning that negative and they're using it. Did anybody catch Liquid Death did something similar last month? Someone said on Instagram, I'd rather drink the sweat off of a fat guy's back. Did anyone see that? They actually did a taste test with 10 people that compared Liquid Death, and then they had a model, a big model, that they had to lick the sweat off his back. Here's another one. This is a resort out in Utah called Snowbird, right? And they did an entire campaign where they used their 1-star reviews, right? And I'll give you a couple examples here. And I love this one. Powder too deep, right? I know this is not a problem we have in Connecticut, powder being too deep, right? I love this one. There were no easy runs. And if you could read that review, it says, at one point, I felt like I was taking my life into my own hands when they skied the mountain. Here's the last one. Too advanced. Kevin, unmute yourself for a second. Kevin, why do you think people go and ski mountains?
For the challenge?
For the challenge, right? They're thrill seekers, right? They've now turned this place into a badge, right? If you can go and ski Snowbird, you've skied some of the most difficult terrain, right? And if you're a beginner, they're saying what? Don't show up. We're not for you, right? All right. So I've given you all 8 different, well, I guess I gave you 6 different types in the F.L.A.W.S.O.M framework. I left out swerving and opposing. I've thrown a lot at you. We've got about 20 minutes left. I'm going to show you how to create a pink goldfish. There's 6 steps, and I'm going to motor through them. But before I do that, I want to open it up for what I call Q and C. I don't do Q&A. I do questions and comments. So who has the first question or comment as it relates to differentiation and the pink goldfish? Yes, Lucas.
Thanks. Really interesting, Stan. And I appreciate the kind of strategic 2x2. I did wonder about this sole focus on differentiation, which is to say, isn't there a case to be made that differentiation is not the only success driver in the marketplace, that kind of underlying quality matters, and that people do have expectations for products that need to be met. So maybe just place this differentiation idea in the context of other ways of gaining a foothold in the market.
I agree with you, Lucas, that there are certainly a lot of different ways that you can try to stand out within the marketplace. But I think it all comes down to giving your customers and clients a reason to do business with you. And it could be because of the quality and the quality that you have. And I would say if that's the thing that makes you stand out, then I would say, don't try to be, if that's A of A, B, and C, then I would go and double and triple down on that, if that makes sense, Lucas. And there are other companies, right, that their mantra is, this is like an IKEA thing, right? When you used to buy furniture, Lucas, it was a big decision because it was quality and it was meant to last for 5, 10, maybe a generation. How did IKEA flip that on its head, Lucas?
Well, relatively inexpensive, affordable, and nice looking, Scandinavian style.
Right. Design, but not high price and not a huge commitment. Right. So that's a great example where everyone goes the quality route in furniture. They went the exact. And by the way, I'm going to be with them on Tuesday next week outside of Philadelphia. So that's top of mind for me. One or two more questions or comments. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I was actually, it's not a question or a comment. It's a observation about IKEA.
I don't see any O's in there.
Sorry, it's a comment. No, it's a comment about about IKEA.
Yeah, own the comment.
Is that the other thing they did was self-assembly.
Right.
And I think that really makes people feel like they must be getting a deal. It's so cheap, I got to do it myself. And there's actually a business in Naugatuck, Connecticut called A Better Way Autos that does something very, very simple, very similar. Sorry. It's a wholesale auto dealer that goes direct to consumer. But when you go into this place, it's bare bones. I mean, It is metal desks and just lined up, and there's no negotiation. They don't detail the cars, they don't do this, they don't do that, but you walk out of there saying, I must have just gotten the greatest deal on this car, because they don't waste their money on the trappings, which is something I think IKEA also does.
Right, and they stand out, right, because they're so different in terms of how they do their business. I like that, Mike. Yeah, IKEA it's really interesting. It's been studied that if you put together that table or that chair, because of you putting it together, you actually value that a lot higher because of the effort that you put into it. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
And you impress
I see
your kid.
Yeah. Any other question? Mike, did you have a question or comment? Awesome. Any others before we get to the creating? Yeah, Jill, last one. You're still muted.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to take my hand down. So just a quick comment about the micro optimizations, which I think is really, first of all, it's valid on its own, right? But in today's environment with social and sharing, those things that might seem so simple or so small or too micro actually have the ability to extend beyond because of sharing. So if you think about that popsicle waiter, how many times has that been Instagrammed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tons.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was cool. And then just a quick reaction to, I know I forgot the name. Was it Lucas who made the comment about, is it quality? Is it these things? To me, it's just funnel, right? A customer who's never heard of you, or a prospect who's never heard of you, does not know your quality or your legacy or your history or maybe anything else that you want to talk up. So first you need that first touch point. They need to be aware of you. And so I think that the standing out piece of it is, again, how do you get attention in a crowded marketplace?
Right.
Especially and for those of us that work in digital, it's very hard. You have a nanosecond to get somebody's attention. So to me, it's about a funnel exercise, but you kind of have to start them in one place of the funnel. But those reassurances down the funnel are critical.
Yeah, in fact, we were talking before we started. There's a guy named Joseph Jaffe who talks about not just the funnel, but he talks about the bow tie. So once you have somebody as a customer, how are you doing these little things to keep them engaged, right? And the whole thesis of Purple, by the way, is that, a referred customer is about 4 times as valuable to you than a traditionally acquired customer, right? If I come to your business because I've been referred by a current customer, I spend up to twice the amount with you over my lifetime. I stay longer, I spend more. And because I've been referred myself, I'm more apt to refer other people. So over my lifetime, I refer up to twice the amount. So let's talk about creating Pink Goldfish. I mentioned there's a process. We call it the 6A process. It starts with this. And I love that you were going there, Jill. It starts with awareness, right? One, your customers have to be aware of what makes you unique, but you also have to do the work to understand both your strengths and your weakness. And one of the things I love about the book is that we break down 40 different things that relate to strengths for organizations. And then what we have you do is put an X through all of the 40 that relate to your organization. But ultimately, you have to do a 1 to 5 of your 5 biggest strengths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the second part of that is we flip it and we say, now you have to look at your weaknesses, right? And do the same thing. X the things that have a relationship and then rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the second A in the process after doing that awareness exercise is what we call acceptance, right? You have to wrap your arms around who you are and not be apologetic about it. And one of the things we love as part of that process is that we match up your strengths and your weaknesses. And what you'll find is every weakness has a corresponding what? Every weakness has a corresponding strength. So for example, if I'm looking over here and maybe your business, it's a smaller business, so it may be small or weak. But what's the flip side of that from a strength? It means you can be responsive and quick to address the needs of your customers, right? So don't be apologetic for being small because there's inherent strength that goes on with that. So the idea here is that we understand that some of our weaknesses may actually hold the key to our greatest strength. And sometime when we do the strengths and weaknesses, we start to see pairs, which is an indication that you're really onto something in terms of standing out. The next step is what we call the alignment phase, right? And in the alignment phase, right, we're already aware of what makes us unique. We've accepted it. Now, when people visit our website, when people pick up our marketing collateral, when people walk into our office, is there alignment with what makes us weird, unique, and different, right? Is that showing through for that customer or client, right? The next step, once we've created that alignment, and this is my favorite step, we call it the amplify or amplification phase. And in this phase, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of those things that make us unique and we're going to turn up the dial on some of those things. And other things, we might turn the dial all the way down to 0. Does that make sense? Especially if it's not important to our customers and clients, sometimes we have to have the courage and conviction to go all the way to 0. But if something is important to our customers and clients and it's who we are, then we're going to want to turn the volume up and do a maximization strategy. And if we're going to turn it up, what number do we want to go to? Type it in the chat if you know. Oh, I love it. Joseph's got it. He said, can we go to 11? Right? And this is near and dear to AMA Connecticut, because just back in 2022, you guys received the Turn It Up chapter of the year, which was an indication that you really turned it up and you brought it up to 11. Now, here's the thing. If you've never heard of this concept of going to 11, I'm going to play for you the best 52 seconds in all of modern cinema.
This is the top to what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes are going to be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere. Exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
These go to 11. Why 11? Because 11's what? One louder, isn't it? So again, that's amplify. That's in some cases a maximization strategy, turning it up to 11, or turning it in some cases all the way down to 0. The fifth A is what we call augment. So what we found is great companies, and we just talked about IKEA for an example. IKEA just doesn't do one thing. They use multiple strategies in the F.L.A.W.S.O.M framework. So some things they lopside, some things they withhold, right? They don't deliver or put your furniture together at IKEA, right? There's a lot of little things that they do that make them stand out and be different. All the way to, has anybody ever had the meatballs there? Talk about looking forward to lunch at a furniture store, right? That's a little micro weirding, by the way. So augment is the idea of doing multiple strategies. The sixth and final A is attack, right? And attack is about understanding that your biggest competitors, every one of their strengths has what? A corresponding weakness, right? So looking at ways that you can potentially go on the attack and go after your competition by understanding that their strengths also have corresponding weaknesses. Now I want to tell one last story to take us home. We've got about 5 minutes. And I'm going to have to go back 600 years ago and tell you the story of this guy right here. Has anyone ever heard of Ashikaga Yoshimasa? So he was a Japanese shogun back in the 16th century. And Ashikaga had a favorite tea bowl. Much like, does anybody have like a favorite like coffee mug that someone gave? Kevin's shaking his head, right? Kevin, someone gave it to you. You could never replace it. It like holds sentimental value. Well, that's for this guy. He absolutely loved his tea bowl, Kevin. And so one day, and you're going to know where this is going, right? He's not paying attention. And all of a sudden it gets knocked over. And what happens? It smashes into pieces. And I'm sure he let some F-bombs out, right? But what do you do after you curse, right? You think, well, maybe I could fix it, right? Maybe this time I could glue it back together and I can fix it. And that's exactly what he did. He sent it out to get fixed, and it came back 2 days later, And when they gave it back to him and he held it in his hands, his heart sank. Whoever had fixed it had used this black, ugly, coarse glue. They used metal staples to put it back together. It looked like this Franken bowl, right? And Ashikaga said, no. He said, not good enough. And he was in the Osaka region in Japan. He called all of the best craftsmen from the entire region in, and he gave them the T-bowl and he said, you need to fix this. And those craftsmen, they went away and they meticulously took the T-bowl apart and they cleaned it, each piece. And then they used lacquer and gold to put it back together. And after about 2 weeks, they came back and they gave Ashikaga his new T-bowl. And as he held it in his hand, his heart leapt. That T-bowl now is even better than when it was perfectly new. Because in this instance, it didn't try to cover up and hide the flaws. Kevin, unmute yourself. What was the difference this time when they brought back this bowl?
They accentuated the flaws.
They highlighted the flaws. They amplified the flaws instead of trying to hide them. And so this became an art form that exists till today in Japan. It's called kintsugi. And it's Japanese for golden joinery. And it became so popular at the time of Ashikaga that collectors would take perfectly good pieces of pottery and do what?
Right.
Smash them to be able to apply the golden seams of kintsugi.
A friend
So
gave me one of those bowls.
What's that, Christine?
A friend gave me one of those bowls.
Really? Wow.
Not like the
that
original
is...
one, but just a modern interpretation.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So if we think about what we've talked about today, right? We've talked about kintsugi is this idea of illuminating flaws, right? Not trying to cover up what makes us unique and weird and different. It's owning it and illuminating it. Remember, the polar bear is down here in the bottom left. That's also another Japanese design aesthetic called wabi-sabi. Has anybody heard of wabi-sabi before? Well, wabi-sabi is this idea that nature is beautiful, but what makes nature beautiful is that it's imperfect, right? So wabi-sabi is the idea that maybe you're using a piece of wood to make like a coffee table. Maybe you pick the piece of the wood that has like a knot in it because it makes it a little more imperfect and unique. And so this is the idea of intentionally creating imperfection. Remember, we talked about maybe holding back and not doing what everyone else does as normal. This is intentionally trying to create imperfection. This is inherent. This is intentional. All right, here's the thing. I don't want you to buy my book, even though Forbes says it's one of 7 books that'll help you dominate your industry. I don't want you to buy it. Please do not buy it. Because here's the deal. Tomorrow it's free on Amazon for you guys. So if you want to take a picture of that, feel free to take a picture. It's free all day tomorrow, the ebook on Amazon. And that's my gift back to you guys. Kevin and the crew, I'll make sure I give you guys a link just so you can send it out tomorrow as a follow-up. But it's my pleasure to have shared, again, what I'm super passionate about, both personally and professionally, this idea of the pink goldfish. Thank you for spending some time with me. I've spoken now at 70 of the 75 chapters, talk about lopsiding, and it was an honor to finally get back and do the combined Connecticut chapter.